Well, one of the things they told me was that he was at the house one night, and we were talking, and he started laughing. He said, "Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about?" And I said, I had pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote, you know? And he started to laugh. He said, "You're an idiot." And I said, "Why am I an idiot?" He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded women's lib, you know? And we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He says, there were two primary reasons. And they were, one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before women's lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. It breaks up their family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the two primary reasons for women's lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. You know, when I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble venture.
Aaron, did you know that Gloria Steinem, in one of her own books, now admits the CIA funded Miss Magazine?
No, I had no idea about that. No, I never heard that.
Yeah, we're going to...
CIA funded Miss Magazine?
Funded Miss Magazine with the stated goal of taxing women and breaking up the family.
No kidding. I never heard that. Well, Nick told me. I mean, I know it, but not because I know the CIA was involved in it.
Well, Gloria Steinem was proud of it. Oh, the CIA wanted to help me help women.
No kidding.
So they funded it, yeah. And of course, it's divide and conquer.
Right,
and
of course.
What they do is they focus in, obviously, on real problems. Women were getting shafted in many ways, but the elite wasn't planning to help them. They were planning to really shaft them and take men away from them. Look at what they did with black families. You only had about 10% illegitimacy 50 years ago in black communities, and now it's over 90%. And look at welfare. We're going to give you some money, but you can't have a man in the house.
Right.
And so that was further to degrade the family. Totally destroyed. And now illegitimacy is over 50% in the general population.
Right. Well, see, the whole thing is these people control the money, so they make all the rules. You understand? And they put whatever rules they want into effect. And the truth is, America has really become a socialist, communistic country. And everybody says it's a capitalistic country. It's not a capitalistic country. You know, how can it be capitalistic when you have a central bank? That's the first. It can't be. You know,
it's a planned economy.
It's a planned economy. It's a phony. If they want to create prosperity, they just print dollars. They just make dollars or put digits into the economy, and then now you have prosperity. You don't have real prosperity. You don't have real manufacturing. You just have money being injected in. It's an infusion of credit,
which only makes the government go into more debt.
Good evening, YouTube. This is Kendra coming back at you. I know it's been a couple of days since I've done a live stream, and it's been more than a week or so since I've actually done a video. Like I said, at the time, working, giving time to my family, those things. But I'm here today. And the video that you just watched was an old clip of an interview that was conducted by Alex Jones, and the man that is being interviewed is the late Aaron Russo, who was a filmmaker who made a documentary. This was maybe about 10 years ago or so, called America, Freedom to Fascism, which actually you can find that documentary here on YouTube if you care to watch it. And I wanted to just dive right into this video. And I know some people are saying, well, she's talking about feminism again. I am. And I'm going to keep talking about it from different, perhaps, aspects, because I want to drive a point home. You know, when they do propaganda and they want to indoctrinate you with some idea, they repeat it. So Repetition is the first stage in brainwashing. So I'm going to repeat it because we need another brainwashing. We need to literally take our brains and clean them. Um, and the other reason I'm going to keep dealing with feminism is because we as black women really suffer under the ideals and our socialization under the concepts and the construct of feminism. Okay. Now, typically, whenever some major socialization is to come down the pike in this society, black people are hit with it first. And usually we are more susceptible because we are the only group in America who collectively have a broken culture. Okay, we were reset in our culture as a result of chattel slavery, and therefore our collective cultures, because it was not one singular culture, was broken, and it's still broken. We've tried in many ways to build a culture, but our culture is only so old versus the cultures of Africans who actually come from Africa, who have their ties of lineage still in Africa, and they can point to um, their culture in an unbroken state. The same with Asians, the same with Indians and Pakistanis, the same with just about any other nationality or racial group. So that vulnerability, the fact that we have holes in our culture, leads us to be vulnerable to any and all types of socialization that is foisted upon us through media, through school, and things of that nature. And I'm going to really focus on how the black woman actually helps white supremacy by continuing to buy into these feminist ideas and upholding these concepts and tenets. Now, in the beginning of the video, you heard Mr. Russo talk about the two reasons why feminism was even created. The first was to tax the other half of the population, okay? Because traditionally, prior to the movement of feminism, particularly the second wave, you had a situation where women and children were dependent upon the men of the society for their sustenance. Okay. Women were unable to find gainful employment of their own due to laws, due to the social structure of the time, and what was acceptable as far as gender roles were concerned. Women were to raise children, and they were to raise children, and they were also to keep up the homestead and things of that nature. They did not have time, nor was it necessary for the provision of the family for her to also be a breadwinner. Now, when men are the only breadwinners, that is okay as far as socially, because a family structure can be built and it can be strong. because the everyone is doing their respective job in order to keep it going. But when you have greed at the base of what this country deals with, among other things, and what they are concerned with, it breeds things like, let's put together an agenda that will get the women out of the homes and into the workplaces. And what they did was that they used legitimate issues that women, white women, were having, which were basically being property as owned by their husbands, not having any real autonomy in the society, and her only identity was the identity first of her family and then of her husband, never being able to gain an identity of her own. And different things that the feminism was supposed to address in some sort of a quote unquote righteous way. Um, these were real issues at one point in time. However, that's usually how propaganda works. It'll take something that is actually true, that is actually really happening to a sector or a subsection of society, and it will exacerbate that, and then it will create a solution. But the solution itself is destructive, okay? And it only provides a way for a bigger agenda to come down the pike. And the taxation of the female, by getting her out of the house, by telling her that she should not have to raise and rear children, this is a thankless job. No one really appreciates her for it. Her husband doesn't care about her. Her only value is to do these things. And your husband doesn't love you. He can't possibly love you. You are a tool to be used, and nothing more. Okay. And also, you should be happy about this lot in your life. Okay. That your life will never be anything more than a baby machine, a sex toy, and nothing else. You are not to think, you are not to be educated, you are not to be have any leeway inside or out of the house. You don't even really have say over the children that you gave birth to. And the role of women was actually characterized in such a negative way that all the things that I named just now are things that women still feel, even though we no longer live in a society that even supports a woman being in that role, let alone tries to box women into the role. Most women will nod their head about that. Yeah, men don't care about us, and why should my only job be to raise children? And I can do other things. I can be this, and I can be that, and I can go to school, and I can go to this. And listen, I'm not saying women cannot be educated. In point of fact, I believe women should be quite educated, because she's the first educator of her child. And if you have a dumb woman, you'll have dumb children. Okay? You must have a woman who is able to teach your children life, give them the building blocks that will make them productive, healthy adults, okay, that operate in good sense, okay, and that aren't out here running amok. So if you want the woman to do her job properly, she has to have and education to do that. And she doesn't have to have a master's degree to go to college. That's not even what I mean by education. She should not be restricted from the gaining of knowledge so that she can pass down that knowledge to her children. Um, so basically, you'll have a lot of women who will be like, yeah, our jobs shouldn't be that and shouldn't be this, and we should have the same job that men have in the society. So feminism came around and, in a nutshell, convinced women that the gender role assigned to women traditionally was something bad. It was something that needed to be discarded. It needed to be gotten rid of. It needed to be changed. Men needed to be challenged on their position in society and their abuses of power, and they needed to be chastised. And actually, it moved from that into saying that, well, men need to be more feminized so that they can have more empathy for the plight of women, regardless of the fact that women are no longer in those plights. And as a matter of fact, women are pretty much free to do what they want. However, the family has been destroyed by the concept and the following socialization of feminism. Okay? And if you go to the minute mark, 2 minutes and 6 seconds, Alex Jones actually brings up specifically the black community and how it was destroyed under feminism. But before I get into that, there were 2 reasons why feminism was brought to bear. The first was the taxation of the other half of society for greed purposes. And also, that taxation actually puts us in a situation of poverty. Okay, but I'll come back to that. The second reason, and this is the most damning, the second reason was purposely to destabilize the family unit. Okay? To destabilize the family unit. How does it destabilize the family unit? It does several things. The convincing of women that her role at home is unimportant, disgraceful, and actually something that should be looked down upon. Stay-at-home mothers are looked down upon. They are considered to be weak women who will let a man trample all over them and will do nothing more than pop babies every year, and they don't have a life, and they don't have any happiness, and they don't have anything. And if she's not out and about and making money and doing and having casual sex and whatever she wants, whatever comes to her mind, if she's not out doing those things, then she isn't being a real woman, and she isn't exploring all the aspects of her womanhood and her freedom. Okay? That those things, the traditional gender role of women is shamed, and it is frowned upon. Okay? Removing women out of the house not only allows the government to tax the other half of the population, it also does what to the children? It leaves the children vulnerable, because even though the father is out breadwinning and now the mother is out breadwinning, the child doesn't stop needing caretaking, rearing, and teaching. So if the mother is no longer in the home to devote her time and attention to her children by teaching them, rearing them, raising them, and socializing them with her own set of values, or rather the values of her and her husband combined, then she's sending them off to school. The child actually spends much more time in the presence of teachers, nannies, daycare workers, all of these other individuals who are imparting their own ideas, their codes, their moral compasses into your children. Okay? So if we convince the mother that having children is a waste of her time and energy, she has some kids anyway. Let's say she has her little children and she goes right back to work. Sometimes the children are not even a year old. And they can't go to school. They're too young for school. So they go into daycare. Okay? At daycare, we're just going to minus out real crazy stuff that happens. Just a normal daycare, the course of a normal daycare. These people who are at the daycare are bonding with your child more than you, because the child is spending upwards anywhere from 8 to 10 hours with a daycare worker as you go to work, which includes not only your actual work hours, but any commuting time and things of that nature, so that your child is actually being taken care of by people who are not even in your family, who may or may not share your values at all. Now, when the child is very small, like an infant, or not even one or maybe one, they are learning, but that heavy socialization isn't necessarily taking place. It's only when they start getting a little bit older, into like maybe kindergarten age, where you're actually sending them to school. Okay? School is an institution, meaning that anyone that passes through its doors, sits at its courses, and learns at the feet of its teachers is being institutionalized. Okay? What is school instituting? What is it instituting? Not only math, science, reading, literature. It is instituting a core set of values and ideas into your children that are not yours 9 times out of 10. Okay? They are exposing children earlier and earlier to sexually explicit material. You've got them 4 and 5 years old in preschool and pre-K. You learning about different sexualities. When they're little, they don't know about sexuality. The closest a little kid comes to sexuality is finally at some point discovering that boys and girls have something different down there. That's really where it starts and kind of where it stops for little kids. Okay? The sudden discovery one day that boys and girls are different for a very fundamental reason. Okay? They don't understand the true dynamics of adult relationships because they have not developed that. Their minds are not even developed enough to think that through or to make much sense of it at all. Like I said, it's a shock to them to even realize that, hey, I'm a girl and I'm flat down there, and he's a boy and he's not flat down there. So what's that all about? Like that rocks their whole world. Okay, to figure that out. So they're being socialized into these different ideas, and that the school is the socialization tool for your children. The popular media is the socialization tool for you. to shape your worldview into something different. You notice you begin to accept things that you would not have accepted 10 years ago as facts and truth. You begin to have a change of heart over this subject and that subject where once you were staunch. And I'm not saying that changing your mind about something as you get older is some sort of inherently bad thing. We all should evolve. We all should gain knowledge. And many times, if we're truthful about that, those things will change our worldview to some extent. However, I'm talking about brainwashing through media and for adults and schooling through for children. Okay? So I need you to bear with me because I'm trying to point out how the family is destroyed by the concept of feminism. The seemingly simple act of taking the mother out of her place destroys, in essence, the family structure. And I mentioned this in a previous video that women are the gatekeepers of children and home. I don't know how many times I have to say that. Women, not men, women are the gatekeepers of children and home. So you remove the gatekeeper. If you remove the gatekeeper, then the treasures that the gatekeeper was guarding are open for pillaging. And what are those treasures? The treasures are the minds and hearts of your children. That is the treasure. Okay? Now, back to socializing your children. So your children are not learning, even though the children are yours, they actually don't belong to you. They belong to the state. And the state will dictate what is right and what is wrong, what is moral code, what the moral compass should be, what political correctness should be, how they should think, what to think, what kind of opinion to have about various subjects. And popular media is teaching you. Now, what's the purpose of teaching you? You're grown. What's the purpose of teaching you? Well, what is it teaching you? What is it teaching women? What on popular media, what does popular media teach women about themselves and about their relation to men as far as family and having romantic relationships with men is concerned? What have we learned growing up? We have learned that we don't need men, that they are obsolete for the most part in the lives of the women and children. Now I'm going to point something out to you. Women have a natural desire to want to two things. We have a natural desire to want to be maintained and we want to be protected. Okay? Women will go for security every time. Okay? That is in our nature. We cannot help it. It's not something we can turn off. So, if we have for time immemorial relied upon men, our men, the men of our group, the men of our family, to do this maintaining and protecting that we so crave, because that is our nature, because we need the maintenance, or we have needed the maintenance and the protection so that we could dedicate our full time and attention to the rearing and stabilization of the home and children, which is a full-time thing. Can't be distracted. Okay. We have needed that. That has been the deal. Okay. Women's nature didn't go anywhere, but the men were phased out of the equation. Now, how is it that in this day and time and in this society, women still feel able to have children despite the fact that there are fewer and fewer fathers in the home? How? Well, because they feel maintained and protected. But by whom? Who is maintaining and protecting? Because women, we won't have children unless maintenance and protection is on the table. We won't have them. We will not birth if maintenance and protection is not there. So if the man, as usual, I am talking about black people. If the man, the black man, has been removed from the picture, yet black women continue to birth children, where is she receiving this maintenance and protection from? Well, she's receiving it from the government, aka white zaddy. That's where she's getting it. How? Well, white zaddy provided something called welfare, which provides the maintenance. The only caveat was that you could get this welfare, but you cannot have a man actually living in the house with you, because we need to know that you are properly destitute before the state will step in and give you any monetary assistance of any kind, be that food stamps, cash assistance, Section 8 vouchers, and the like. You can't be properly, now think about that. You can't be destitute enough if you have a man in the home who is actually doing the maintaining and protecting. You're actually not in a destitute enough state to warrant the state to come to your rescue. You must make yourself at the lowest possible need so that we can come in like a white knight in shining armor and rescue you. The state provides the maintenance. They also provide the protection. Who's the protection? Who's the protector? Who's the protector? The police. Because she, and you know it's true, because she calls her protector on you. Don't you, ladies? Don't you call your protector on that nigga that's around you? Don't you call your protector? Don't you call your white zaddy protector to come get this nigga and bust him upside his head and probably kill him or shoot him, or even if you don't, you just incarcerate him. You know he had a warrant, and even if he doesn't, they'll find something. They'll find something. If nothing more than to traumatize the poor man by being arrested or talked down to when the police actually get there. Things like that. You know what I'm talking about, ladies, right? Because you call the police, right? You call the Romans, right? On any little thing, it actually doesn't matter what he's doing, right? It doesn't actually matter what he's doing. You'll call because you're angry. For whatever reason. Illegitimate, whatever. Okay? Because that actually is your protector. Right? and he's your provider. So the state is the maintainer and the provider of the black woman, not the black man, because the black man doesn't run the state. The white man does. Okay? Which goes way back to the other video I did when I basically said that black women are submitting to white men. This is how they do it. Black woman, this is how you perpetuate white supremacy. This is almost the worst type of cooning, because it is a subversive type of cooning. Okay? It's a subversive kind of cooning. You purposely remove the man out of the home. You're having children specifically so that you can get these government benefits. It's a meal ticket. But I'm going to touch back on something else. The rule was that there should be no man in the home because you're not destitute enough to need government assistance if there's a man there. When the family unit is intact for the majority of the population of black people, poverty goes down. Now, I'm not saying that's the only factor that gives rise to poverty. No, of course not. There are plenty of things that give rise to poverty. But as a collective, we're poorer than we need to be rather than richer. You would think that a man being the breadwinner and then suddenly the woman being a breadwinner, well, that's two incomes brought into the house, we should all be richer. You would think, one would think, but one would be wrong. And one would be wrong because the truth of the matter is that there is only one breadwinner, and ladies, that is now you. The man has been removed. You have children by men that you don't ever intend to marry or be with. And that song and dance about child support is just that. It's a song and dance. You don't actually care if he's in your children's life or not. You don't actually care about the relationship between the man who fathers your children and the children. You only care that the child support check can be sent to you. Okay? I'm not even going to get into all the games that you guys play with these kids in order to get a check. But you play yourself. Because if you actually go back to what your role is, which is the gatekeeper of children and home, we actually could have a little bit of prosperity, because you would not be destitute enough to need the state. The equivalent of you choosing state benefits over having a man in the home where these things could actually be taken care of, that you can actually be maintained and protected, is like a person who chooses to remain on SSI and get an SSI check that barely takes care of them versus getting a job which would actually give them more money. They don't want to get the job that would actually give them more money because they don't want to lose the check that isn't benefiting them anyway. Well, they don't allow me to work while you on SSI because then they cut your check. But then who cares about them cutting your check, because the check that you get from the job is actually more than the check that you're getting from Social Security. right? So does it make fiscal sense to choose what is lower rather than what is higher when you have when you have the opportunity to choose? You've destroyed yourself and you've taken your family with you. The concept of not needing a man, not wanting a man around, doing everything you can to push a man away, doing everything that you can to perpetuate that thought in your daughters that she does not need a man. Just you don't need no man. You just go to school, get you, a degree and blah 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 blah. Or the ratchets to tell their daughters, you better start shitting babies so that you can get these checks. Don't rely on no man to take care of you. You don't need no man to take care of you because that was made to be bad. Needing a man to take care of you was made out as weak. But if you don't have the man there, you can't concentrate on raising your children, which takes a whole hell of a lot of fucking energy and thought and time. And so we remain broken. We remain broken. And at some point, ladies, at some point, we are going to have to pick up some of this. You can't sit back and say, well, the men should pick it up. No. You have to pick it up. You must. You're still, regardless of how dysfunctional and broken you are still birthing the children of the community. You're still doing it. So how is it that you don't feel as though you should take part in correcting the issue? Why? Why are you just completely bereft of any responsibility in it? But you want it fixed. Actually, you don't. You like the way it is. Because you get to call the police on that man when he don't do what you want. You get to drag him through the court system. Everything basically favors you, whether you're right or wrong. And you know that. You know that article that was on Madame Noir, or I think it was, that raised a big stink on YouTube where it said black men are the white men of the black community? No, they're not. Actually, black women are the white men of the black community. Because you the one use white privilege. That being able to call the police and get a black man locked up and being able to drag him through the court at will, you're no different than Barbecue Becky. You're not any different than her. You laugh at her, but you're her. You laugh and you shake your head and it's so ridiculous, but basically you're her. Basically, you do the same thing. You know that you can wield the privilege of you being a woman in this society against your man, and you use it to the fullest extent that you can. Then you wonder why men don't want to be bothered. Where are all the good men at? They're hiding from you. Even the ones who say that they're not feminists, you've been socialized into it. I'm not a feminist either. I've been socialized into being a feminist though. It's a programming. And I know it's a programming because I have to fight it. I have to fight the thought when it comes up because it's a programming. Been programmed like that since I was a little kid in school. It's just that I know better. I know better. I know better than to be dealing with feminism because I know what it is. Not to mention, in that video, and this is going to be one of the last things I say, then I'm going to cut this short, that the CIA actually funded the women's lib movement. The last time the CIA funded something that came to the black community, we had the crack era. Okay? We had stop and frisk. And we had an astronomical rate of black men going to jail for little or nothing. Last time CIA injected anything into the black community, it destroyed us. And they injected feminism into the black community, and guess what? Destroyed us. And the only reason you don't speak against it is because you benefit from it. In what little way you believe you benefit, you trying to benefit out of it. With the little power that they give you, you use it like a cruel taskmaster. You use it. You let your girlfriends and your mom and your sisters and this one and that one talk you into doing some man dirty. Well, girl, he made you mad. And, just take his ass to child support then. Fix his ass. I mean, why are you trying to fix him? You know what they was fixing? That's an interesting term. You're gonna fix him. You fix dogs and cats. You fix them. You know how you neuter them. Just cut their balls off. Is that the kind of fixing you mean? Is that the fixing that you're trying to do? Cut his balls off? In the court, make the white man call white zaddy on him again, make the white man cut his balls off. And I'm not even gonna get back into that. I'm gonna end this. There will be other videos about feminism. I'm not done. But I will catch you later.